Hey, Father Taylor here, and it's a rather warm but perfect weather. If you like summer, July 7th, Friday, and I'm here today with your weekly eBlast, sometimes called the Weekend Update. So, church is still going on. There's a lot of slowing down. We understand people are away on vacation, getting some travel, and now the school vacations going on. That's great. But I'm gonna let you know we are still alive and well and kicking and working on stuff around the clock around church. For an example, we had a planning meeting with Paula and a whole crew of people. We have planned out the schedule, the basic schedule for us. Paula is really she's the one that gets that together. But we planned out a whole schedule on Wednesday night that goes from basically through the summer all the way through right up about a year. So we have the basic calendar for a year going. So that's going on. We have had people working on our survey. Let me bring you up to speed about that. You may recall 3 years ago, I had some people take a look at the house that's uh, not the rectory, but the other house we have where the sexton lives. And because we had not been in the house for years inside. And, it turns out that the bottom line is this, is that all the pros that looked at that said this house would take a tremendous amount of money to redo. And so the best thing to do is to be able to think about selling this place so that it doesn't become a liability. For instance, if the heating unit went up, you'd make a big investment without any return on that. And so we're being cautious. This goes back to 2 annual meetings ago when we said we have to make sure that our buildings are assets and not liabilities. Anyway, so we tried to get a surveyor, and that survey, it took us 9 months before the surveyor who agreed to do it could come out. Crazy. Uh, Apparently, it's a large backup, from building construction issues due to COVID. The guy comes out. They come out in October. They do all the stuff the surveyors do. They got all the lines drawn. They took the idea is how can we need to redraw the lines for the house so that they don't cut into property that we use. Current lines include some of the green that's up there along Maple Street, but are also part of our parking lot. So we need to redraw the lines, get those put into town. All this homework got done. Kathy Oakes leading the charge. We did a tremendous amount of work. Sherry Landerman, as a realtor, came in. She knows a lot about how this works. We got our basic ideas. They went down to the town. The town said, yeah, here's what you can do. Here's where you're grandfathered in. Here's your basic parameters of what you can do. Great. Surveyors have it. It took the surveyors from October till about 6 weeks ago. I mean, think about that. In the middle of June, we finally got the paperwork back from surveyor. Very disappointing. I'm not going to get into their delays, but very disappointing. Here's the worst part. It was as if they had it's as if they had not listened to a word we said or looked at any of the paperwork we gave them. So the survey that was done basically was useless. So Kathy Oakes is back there working with the surveyors because we have to get these lines drawn correctly. And so once the lines are drawn, then we'll have those entered into town so that the house becomes its own place with its own little geography, and it doesn't interfere with any of the stuff we use for church. At that point, we would, if that was done, we would, the vestry would make a final actual vote on the selling of the property. If they decided yes, then we would have an all parish meeting. The all parish meeting, we would go over these things, which we've now been talking about for 3 years, but we would go over them and then the parish would vote. And once that's done, then it has to simply get checked off by the standing committee, which has to do with a presentation we make, some paperwork. They come back, 3 different people come back and check out our stuff, our church, our property. So there's all this mishmash that goes on. And again, the idea is simply if with a building like that, which would cost us a lot of money to bring up to speed, and we have decided that it's not worth the investment. You don't want it to become a liability. Tree falls on the roof, you have to repair the building, money just like going elsewhere. So anyway, that's one of the things that we are working on a lot. Second thing we're working on is we're now working, try to figure out how to make our building help pay for itself. you never want to get into a situation where your finances, you're putting more money into your building and you're taking money away from ministry. Our church exists as a community in ministry. Buildings we fall in love with, but they're not always the best thing to fall in love with because they cost a lot. So we're now at a place where we're trying to figure out, is the money we're going to go for staff and the development of mission, or we're going to spend all of our money on building repairs? It's one of those things like a graph that you have to make these decisions where, so that's another piece that we're considering and working on. We've had 3 different people now come out and look at our air conditioning, gotten 3 very different results. So we are working hard on that. But again, when it comes down to repairing air conditioning, to replace all the units for just shy of $40,000, that's a big hunk of money. So we're just trying to figure all these things out. So that's just being said. It looks like we're slowing down, but man, there's a lot of work going on. Now let's talk about ministry. Kids ministry still going on. That Camp Stellar, when kids are here and they're back from vacation, Sundays they're having a blast with Camp Stellar, which is basically like a Sunday school version of VBS. They're having a great time. So please tell your friends with kids, man, our church's got a great thing on Sunday. Not only do we have church, but the kids are having a blast. So particularly if you have younger kids, man, it's really cool. So I just want to invite you to that. That's still going on. In addition to that, discipleship. The question about discipleship that we talk about really every Sunday is, not only has Jesus died to forgive my sins, but I've been justified through my faith in Jesus. I have peace with God. And now I'm called to be a disciple. It's not like you sit back and go, I'm just waiting for Jesus to come back and he'll tie everything up with a little bow. No, we're called to continue to know and serve him. And part of the way we serve him is by the kind of developing the depth of disciples. So in church, we've been talking about these great verses from Romans 5, 6, 7, and next week 8. Really powerful stuff about what is the transformation that happens inside of a person, where the law of sin and death is no longer applicable to us because we have died to that and we've risen. What does that mean? How do I change? How is the Holy Spirit at work in me? Trying to raise your expectation. Most Christians have such a low expectation. I've come to believe, and that's the end of the show. Baloney. It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning of things. So we're talking about it on Sundays. And so Wednesday, we have a group that is really based on how do I become a disciple for right now, for the age that Jesus has called me to be a disciple. And that we have a little group that meets. It's an hour-and-a-half meeting. It's called the Mission Group, but anybody can come to that. This Wednesday, 6:30, we meet. Building is air conditioned where we meet. I'm telling you, we had the most profound experience of the Holy Spirit last time that we met in such an unexpected way that we had to basically stop the meeting because people were just so moved by the Spirit. There were 8 or 9 people. We were circulating 3 boxes of Kleenex, not because people were sad, because the Holy Spirit just come upon us in a powerful way. So this Wednesday, 6:30, we have a little liturgy we follow. So prayers we do at the beginning. We do some dwelling in the Word, and then we ask some basic questions, and that's the extent of it. But if you do it, it increases your awareness of God with you, and increases your awareness of what God is wanting you to pay attention to out in the wider world. And that's how disciples get out there and do the work that disciples do outside of church. So that's this Wednesday. That's still going on. That's Wednesday night. I also want to call your attention to, I sort of pull it up here, is that on the 16th, now, of course, I'd rather you be in church here, but I got to tell you, down at the cathedral, 10 o'clock, they do this about once a year as part of the Greater Hartford Festival of Jazz. On the 16th, they're having a jazz mass at the cathedral. The cathedral, the cathedral spent, I don't know, a couple of $1 million over the last couple of years to redo the cathedral. What a gorgeous place that's so flexible. They have some really cool things that they do with the building, like whole platforms move. They can change the shape of going on. Very cool. So if you want something cool, and I'm sure they're air conditioned, but the 16th, 10 o'clock, they have their annual jazz mass. And so there's going to be great jazz music as part of your worship. And Bishop Mello, if you've never met him, he's the guy who will be preaching that day. So that's on the 16th. On the 15th, the day before, that is the day that at 10 o'clock, we will be celebrating the life of Betty Walton. And so that's at 10 o'clock. It's a community event. This is like what we show up for. It's a community thing. Longtime member, 1960s, 60-year member of our church. So we want to have a great send-off for Betty. That's 10 o'clock, Saturday the 15th. Last announcement is this. This Saturday, tomorrow Saturday, is a church down by the pond. So that means people are going to be making lunches starting around 12 o'clock. If you've never participated, what is this all about? Just go up to the hall, check that out around noon. When the lunches get done, come on down. I'll be down at the park. And so we have a little service that's done out there. The service itself starts at 2. You can come on down to the park. You park anywhere around Bushnell Park. Just head toward the horses go up and down. What is it called? What is it called? The Calliope. I don't think that's what that's called. The merry-go-round. So head down to that, and you'll find us. We're right there by the little pond that's at the kind of reflecting pond that's right there in the park. So you come down there. I'll meet you. I'll say hi. We'll grab you. Some great people who come there, all the time. Get to do a little bit of ministry, meet some people down in the park. And hopefully it'll be nice and warm. I love that weather. So anyway, that's a lot going on. So hopefully we'll see you Sunday. Super cool service, 8. A little bit warmer service, 9:15. Coffee in our air-conditioned area afterwards. Hope to see you this Sunday. God bless you. Talk to you soon.